It occurred to me reading back over the Golden Compass videos that I made that I was a little misleading about one thing. Nothing to do with His Dark Materials itself, but I listed early on like that His Dark Materials was among the best fantasy stuff I'd ever read, including one other series, which actually isn't as good as His Dark Materials. It's better. It's also better than Harry Potter and even Lord of the Rings. It is the best fantasy book series I have ever read, and that is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. The series is set in a world called Westeros, and it involves several different ruling houses all competing for power. And as much as there is good and bad sides in the series, the good side is the Stark family, which consists of like the very like noble intentioned but kind of like weak-spirited patriarch and his like little perfect little princess daughter, her his other daughter, who is like just a spunky tomboy type who wants to fight all the time, and his teenage son who's very precocious about like wanting to go on the battlefield and stuff, and then his really little sons who don't really do that much so far, but they clearly are being built up to something big to come along. And then the bad side is a family called Lannister, who are all basically just these very rich, haughty, nasty types. The one exception being their black sheep dwarf son Tyrion, who is my favorite character in the books, at least like tied with another character who I'll get to later. And he is like this guy who keeps getting put upon his whole life, and yet he is very smart, and they learn eventually not to underestimate him. My other favorite character is this woman named Daenerys, who is descended from the family that used to rule over the whole world and has now been deposed. And so she's forced into poverty and has to build herself back up into something. And it really becomes compelling what all these people and a bunch of other people will all do in their own little grasp for power or whatever they want to get out of their life. It really becomes very complicated as it goes along. You have anywhere from 5 to 7 different competing powers all making and breaking alliances with each other and fighting these huge battles. Although there is really not that much battle time in the whole series. Trust me, the political maneuvering itself is definitely worth the read. I have the first book here. It's called A Game of Thrones, and they are very densely written. The series originally started out to be 3 books. It's now expanded to a projected 7, of which 4 exist. But it's not something like The Wheel of Time, in which they clearly are just bunches of padding for more money. Martin earns every bit of that space. There is pretty much no fat in this story that I can detect so far. Maybe I'm assuming some things will pay off later on that won't, but considering how good he's been so far about keeping track of everything that's happened, I doubt it. The series has kind of spun out of his control, but in the latest book, A Feast for Crows, he does seem on his way to it, like tapping it back down, getting things back to a more reasonable number of subplots. And the one bad thing about getting into the series is that Martin has come down with some cases of writer's block recently. It took him 5 years to write the latest book, and at this point, it's almost been another 5 years since that book came out, and fans are getting pretty worried that he might not actually live to complete the series. Personally, I am still holding out hope. I imagine it's like something like J.K. Rowling had with Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, where it's just this one big hump that needs to get over, and then he'll be able to get back to writing it fully again. And also exciting news is there is a TV series now being made for HBO titled A Game of Thrones, Why they didn't go for A Song of Ice and Fire, I don't know. But it's attracted some pretty big acting names like Sean Bean and Peter Dinklage and Lena Headey. And also some pretty promising newcomers from what I've seen of their pictures so far. They look very much like the characters are described in the book. And I've actually, on my YouTube channel, made a series of kind of mock radio ads briefly describing each character, so you want to look those up, get yourself maybe a little pumped up for the series in case you haven't read it already, get some idea of who all the characters are. You can check those out. And I also kind of feel like I did with my monster video, which is now airing on Syfy channel, and I'm very impressed with the English dub, by the way. Things seems like we really do have to get behind this thing because it is likely going to be a very expensive series for HBO, and we need to keep watching so they'll keep making more, because there is some stuff in this series that I am just dying to see on screen. I will not say what any of this is because, trust me, pretty much any vaguely detailed description of this plot beyond what I've already given goes into serious spoiler territory. And this has some very rich characters, very well developed, and they go through some very surprising developments as it goes along. Especially this one who starts off as a very unlikable, one of the most unlikable characters in the first book, in fact, who later develops into very not, if not completely likable, at least very understandable person in the third book, where they suddenly become a point of view character. I won't say their name, but you'll know it when you get to that point. Hopefully I've gotten some people interested in these books. I'm sorry I can't go into more detail, but believe me, you don't want to go into this series knowing more than you absolutely have to. And I truly believe that anyone could likely get into the series. It's very unpredictable and very, at times, bleak, but at other times completely awesome, so that they do kind of balance each other out. And you are left with kind of hope that things won't end too badly for the people that you really like. And hopefully Martin will be energized by this new TV series to finish Book 5, which is tentatively titled now A Dance of Dragons, and continue on with Books 6 and 7 from there, because I am just dying to see how this thing turns out. Much like Harry Potter, which I did like the conclusion a bit more than someone like Confused Matthew did, as I gather from some of the things he said. But that is A Song of Ice and Fire. Check it out if you haven't already, and if you like this kind of high fantasy thing, you won't be disappointed.